things there. It's just okay. Yeah, we're recording
Ready.
God
because
damn it! It's
because
me,
that's the
Zach.
level of professionalism we have here.
That's right. This is me, Zach. I'm here with my co-host Skeeter Green, and the one of the most. I'll be honest here. One of the most amazing dudes I've ever met. And he invited me to his house on a weekend. He invited me and my wife to come visit him, and I only met him like a couple times. And my wife came to his house and saw the biggest and most badass collection of Dungeons and Dragons that I had took her breath away. She was the best sport ever. So if you see my wife, you let her know that she was the greatest sport ever for going for, because I sat at Bill's house till midnight. We looked at the most amazing stuff, and I hope he's going to show some of this to us today.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Bill Meinhardt, introduce yourself.
Hi there. Hi, Skeeter. Hi, Zach. Well, I've been playing D&D since, well, you know what? I should tell you a story.
Tell us a story, Bill.
Is it about your character?
I'll tell, no, because other people's characters. So no, I'm going to tell you a story. My sister and brother-in-law started going to Gen Con at Gen Con Dos.
Wow.
And now they're 15 years older than I am. So it came time for Gen Con 10 at the Playboy Club, and they were going to take me up to Gen Con 10. I was 11 years old. And
I just love that whole sentence. Gen Con at the Playboy Club, I'm 11.
Yep.
That's
go ahead
just
and
wonderful.
stop the recording now. You can't get better. Oh,
Yeah.
wait.
My mom got wind of this just as we were about to leave, and she put the kibosh on it.
Oh.
You are not going to the Playboy Club.
Oh.
But your
And
heart
I
must
said,
have been
you know,
torn out and stomped on.
Come on, seriously. But nope. So I didn't get to go. But that was the convention at which the Holmes Blue Box with the Sutherland art on the cover of the Rearing Red Dragon, that was when it was released. So they came back with a copy of it for me, and my love of D&D was born. So my sister and brother-in-law had this enormous war game collection, thousands of war games, like 3,000 or 4,000 war games.
Played them all, right?
I have not played them all, but it was awesome. It was going, Zach, you kind of feel this way, I think, about my collection when you come into this room, when you come into the living room. I would walk into my brother-in-law's study, and he had floor-to-ceiling shelves all the way around the room. You'd sit on the sofa, and the shelves would begin right above your head and go up to the ceiling. So it just felt like a little cocoon of history and learning. I'd look over and I'd see 1066, and I'd see
1918,
Midway.
Guns of August. No kidding.
All around.
That was the big golden age of war games too, like right around the late 70s, early 80s, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
When SPI was still going, absolutely. So I thought to myself, and I already had a huge baseball card collection, which I still have all those cards that I had from my youth. So Skeeter, yeah, when you come and visit, I'll show you my baseball cards.
Zach and I were even talking about that, and depending on how travel restrictions go, we have a plan forming.
We'll run it by you after the show because we want to tell everybody because they want to follow us.
Yeah.
Because you know how we have just legions of fans that can't wait to see where we go.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the twos of our fans will come with us.
Yeah. That'd be Ian regarding and somebody else. You don't want that. So back towards you in the war games. They were in the war games. They got you the home set.
Yes. And so I was a collector already by nature. I had, like 25,000 baseball cards. I was 12, 13 years old. And I wanted to start collecting, but I realized I could never get what my brother-in-law had. So I love Tolkien, as you know, Zach. And I said, I'll start collecting this new D&D stuff. So I started collecting it, and I went to the Gen Con the next year, the first one that was at Parkside in 1978, Gen Con 11. And in 1982, I bought the first orange B3 module that was ever sold. I bought it for $46. Then I bought the next one for $71. Then the third one went for $310. Yes.
This is the point where I want to give this to you from every collector in the planet, because that is just one of those stories that makes you want to cringe. But good on you. Because I saw your pictures of all your B3s sitting on some rug one time at the Atrium, and each time I made me chuckle. So anyway,
yes. So and the year before, I had bought my first brown box because I went up to my friend and I drove up to Lake Geneva, and they had a Winter Fantasy Con, and Terry Kuntz, the brother of Rob Kuntz, co-DM of Greyhawk, was selling his brown box. And I looked inside it. They just had it sitting on a table. And Tom Wam was the moderator for the auction. And I walked over and I looked at it and I saw Terry's name inside and I recognized the name.
And you put it back down. No.
I saw his badge and I walked over. I said, "Why are you getting rid of this?" He said, "Well, I don't play anymore and I'd like, one of the younger kids to have it." And
I need $10.
so everybody, well, they had a minimum bid of $25 and I had $32 on me. And so when the auction finally happened, somebody said 25. I literally jumped up in the air and said 30. And everybody looked over and said, "Oh, let the kid have it." So I got Terry's brown for $30. Now, the funny thing is, of course, I looked upon everybody else in the room as adults and I was the kid and I was 15. But, the other people were like 26. So now I'm 54 and they're 65, but they were always the adults in the room and I was the kid in the room, if you know what I mean.
So I know the story ends where you gave that box back to Terry and sold it on eBay, right? Oh no, you didn't, because you got a great box. I've seen it.
Well, no, I have this picture, and this is a photo of Terry's brown box and Tim Kask's. So there's two of them that don't have labels on them.
Actually,
I'm going to stop you right now. I'm going to say, because we're going to keep doing this to you. We're going to ask you random questions, and you totally know the answer. And I want anybody who sees this from now forever that you do know the answer to this, and it will be spot on, because you've never ever once told me any weird collecting thing about the most eclectic stuff that wasn't like, well, no way. And then Steve Winter will totally go, "Oh yeah, that's totally true." I'm like, So I just want everybody to know, when he tells you the reason why, when I ask why there's no stickers on that, it's going to be spot on. Why are there no stickers on that, Bill?
Well, because the staffers didn't care if there was a sticker on the box or not. So they were using the ones that were at the end of the run, and they would just take that box because we didn't feel the need to, they ran out of stickers. Although ironically, I'm going to pause for just a moment. I have probably the only grouping of unused brown box stickers in the world.
$5.
I could literally make brown box and put the stickers on brown boxes if I chose to, but of course
We'll call you after,
because that would be Frankensteining the boxes.
I can hear Guppy having a heart attack right now.
My connections in China, well, and you and I and maybe Bill Webb, because he's just about that way. We'll talk anyway.
I have no part of these shenanigans.
When I bought Brian Bloom's collection, he had these unused stickers that they didn't apply. They could have applied them to their boxes, but they didn't, because they just didn't really care. They knew what was inside the box, and it's not like they were trying to advertise it. So,
and this is where Zach got his B1 for that was in Brian Bloom's collection, was from Bill, along with his personal copy of All My Children, which started me down my own path. But anyway,
oh boy,
I remember that. I saw a copy of All My Children just the other day, and I thought of you, Zach.
I have one right next to my chair, but I won't bring it up. Anyway.
Well, anyway, to make the longish developing story slightly shorter, we got to about 1982 when I bought the OB3 at Gen Con, and I decided to try to get one of everything that had been made in the history of fantasy role-playing hobby. And so I'm still doing that to this day. It's just since the first brown box came out in January or maybe early February of '74, I decided originally to push the collection to the end of 1990, then to the end of 1994, the first 20 years, and 93, the first 20 years, then 98, then 2000, then I finally settled on 2003. So I'm trying to get one of everything made in the history of fantasy role-playing that's paper-based, that's in the English language, and trying to get the best copy that there is of that item.
Thank God about the English language part.
Yes. So so that's why I find foreign things for you, Zach.
I appreciate that.
So
I want to tell my story now, real quick.
Okay.
I went to Bill's house, my wife, like I said, and I saw his collection. I was collecting at the time, and that's the day I decided that I was never going to be the world's greatest collector of any of the English language stuff. But I found my niche. I found my niche in foreign goods and in minutia and weird crap like these. Anyway.
So Zach, you don't have a wall of D&D like I have thrown up here on the screen that you're stealing for your background? You thiefly
I stole
man.
my background. I have to use his house as my background, so I feel a little more man. No, but honestly, it was an incredible collection. So you've done. How many are you missing? Do you know how many items you're actually missing from your quest?
Sure. Well, I'm missing about 200 things. I have about 13,000, and I'm missing about 200.
Do you
And
find new things you didn't know about that came out?
I
What is your what do you count as a you say paper product? If I went to Leprechaun in Arizona in 1984 and I made a module for 5 people, does that count?
well, here's the thing. The what started the encyclopedic analysis of my collection was Heroic Worlds, which I'm going to go grab a copy. Just a moment.
Okay.
All right. So Skeeter, if you look behind him, which ones of those are you going to take when we go?
Oh,
He's
you
still here.
think I'm going to choose?
Okay. Yep.
So Heroic Worlds came out in 1990, and now the funny thing about this story, it's an attempt to be an encyclopedic listing of every role-playing game made up through August of 1990. Now, the funny thing is, I sat with Lawrence Schick for hours, like 5 or 6 hours, and we went through things, and I told him what I was doing, trying to get one of everything in the history of the game, et cetera, et cetera. Not only did he not thank me in the credits of Heroic Worlds, but he specifically said, don't try to be the guy that tries to get one of everything.
I read that line. I thought of you when I read it.
So you can imagine that when I bought my copy of Heroic Worlds, I felt pretty dissed by Lawrence Schick. And we had a really funny, when I met him finally at North Texas about 4 years ago, we had a really funny talk about it. And he did, in fact, he inscribed my book, and it says, for Bill, who knows more about this stuff than I do, Lawrence Schick. Oh, and thanks.
That's awesome.
The best question to ever ask Lawrence is always ask him, when's Heroic Worlds 2?
That's right. I had to wait 34 years, but I got my thanks from Lawrence Schick.
So. Well, finally, that Lawrence Schick guy, he has good hair, but that's about all he's got going for him.
Oh boy.
So, but people will sometimes ask me, or they'll say something like what you just said, Zach. The only thing that was special about what I did is that I realized 15 years earlier, probably than anybody else, that this stuff had a cultural importance and cachet and should be preserved. And so I viewed it from that perspective, that I was trying to save this for all of us. And now, and I mean, starting late 90s, early 2000s, other people had that same idea, and we're doing it not just from a I like the item, but from a it should be preserved perspective. I just had a 15 or 20 year head start on those folks, so that's how I was able to get things in many cases for the rock bottom prices compared to what they are today. But I've never ever sold a single. I've gotten rid of doubles, or I've traded doubles. I don't want to have all that there is. I want to have the best condition copy of whatever the item is.
Right.
And after that, as
shrink wrap or no, is shrink wrap actually is that a grade?
Shrink wrap is not a condition.
All right. Because there's this guy, I think he's in Madison. Is he in Madison? He says the shrink wrap actually is undervalued. He might be an attorney. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad for all of the people who are preserving the history of the hobby. So
that is magnanimous way to say it's not a shrink wrap is not a condition.
Well, those of us that do not have extensive collections appreciate the work that goes into it. And I actually have a question. So your reputation precedes you all throughout the RPG world. Everybody knows Meinhardt, the whole Meinhardt collection. When in your collecting career did you get kind of the gravitas of that name where people would talk to you and you could get these super rare items? I mean, how long did that take to build the connections to find these things?
We broke into the house at Center Street and stole the first.
I mean, I've known a lot of people for a long time. One of the main advantages I had was going up to Gen Con, because that was the place to find rare items up until just the last couple of years. So people would bring their rare collectibles up there, and for 25 years, I had a virtual monopoly on picking up rare items that came up available at Gen Con. I mean, I got them all if I wanted them. I mean, I wasn't outbid on anything that I really wanted for like 25 years. You know, then some of after the ACAM started, we had an ACAM meeting up at Gen Con, and I started getting to know some of the other collectors in the country who had really great collections, and that's been
And
nothing.
Jeff Emery.
And my good friend Jeff Emery. That's been nothing but a boon, though, because you know now we've been able to trade things amongst one another, and that's been great. And so, but to answer your question, I would like to actually say as a thank you to people that the other collectors have always been very kind and nice towards me as regards to my collection. People have given me things. People have, you know, made things I think available to me that they might not have made available otherwise because they know I wasn't going to be selling it and that I was trying to preserve the history.
Preserve.
Right.
But
I was in Paulsbo one time, and I was putting iced tea down on a manuscript, and I said, "What is this?" And Bill told me Webb told me what it was. And I go, "What are you doing?" I'm giving it to Meinhardt because it needs to be in his collection. That was a good enough answer for me, but he did leave it on his table for me to put an iced tea on, and the cat walked across it and all kinds of stuff. I just want you to know that they're out there, and they don't even like. It isn't like it's like we have to give it to his collection. It's like it belongs to Meinhardt's collection. Right on.
Right. I mean, that I've had that
The attitude's
conversation
really
with
good.
people.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's going to Bill. And it's like, cool.
No, the attitude's really good. And I've seen you bid on some stuff. And I've only seen a bidding war that you were in like once. And I think it was against somebody from Texas that didn't know who you were in North Texas Con. Yeah. And I won't name any guppy names, but it was really funny to watch. Because all of a sudden, as Bill raised his hand, he turns around, looks at who's still bidding. I'm like, ooh. It was awesome, though. I mean, everybody who does collecting is a great person, and I really like them all. And I think that it's good for our hobby to have that. I think that, did you see how big it was going to be now, though? When you had your big, I want to preserve this for going on, did you think Hollywood movie stars would be looking for you to get some stuff? Did you find that that was going to happen to you?
No, I didn't really expect that. I was never doing it for, you know, any money. I mean, clearly I've spent, you know, more on it than
you did for money, but the other direction.
Yeah. I never expected to. I mean, as you know, I mean, I'm virtually, I'm tech challenged. How about that? That's a good way of putting it. So I haven't gone out there and trumpeted my collection. I'm trying to raise the profile to some degree so that other people recognize that there's somebody who's been specifically doing
46 North. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Right. 1800 West, or I was trying to do Wrigley Field, but I blew it.
No, Kuski Park.
Anyway, line from Blues Brothers that went. But I've people, like I said, people have always been very nice about it. And when Guppy, I mean, that's one of the few times I do remember being outbid on something that I specifically wanted. You know, Guppy bid $2,000 for a tournament module that was run at Origins in like 1987. And
still in a box in his front yard.
Yeah, he hasn't opened it yet.
I'm sorry, this is kind of inside baseball joke, but yeah, it's true.
Still working on opening some things up. That is true. But, you know, that's okay. I don't feel like, I mean, you know, $2,000 was a lot for that particular item. I mean, I thought I'd get it for $400 or $500 because that's usually what tournament adventures were going for at the time, or, you know, $200 to $500.
Like now.
I'm sorry, now? Well, it depends.
Now, of course, the same price, right?
The prices have definitely gone up on the collectibles quite a lot in the last few years. You know, and my friends and I have had discussions about this, you know, where the price is going forward. I expect them to continue climbing, especially on the real vintage D&D stuff. You know, some of the peripheral stuff has risen dramatically as well. So I think the prices are still going to be going up because there are people now have more disposable wealth who used to collect these things when they were kids, and they want these items because they're important to them.
I think that's the key. That's the key thing and I thought I got in too late, and I was still able to get some stuff for like relatively inexpensively that I could never afford now. But I think that the key is we were getting into it when I came in way after you, obviously in like 2010, 2009, and I was just so excited I could buy the stuff that I couldn't buy as a kid. Mm-hmm. Now some of that stuff is out of my range, but I already own it. But the thing is, the more disposable income we get, the more I think you'll see Q1 becoming a, there's a lot of those produced, but there aren't infinite. And there are a lot of people in the hobby that I think that are really, they're coming to it. I think that
we're flying.
We are flying. I thought I would just come over to the lesser known section.
Oh, good Lord!
Of the bookcase, right?
I'm not seeing me, but that's okay.
Are we down?
Are we down or up?
No. You're right. I'm sorry. Hang on.
There we go. No, I see it.
Boom.
Wow.
Yep. He did it. He backed my Kickstarter. It made me feel good.
Here we go.
Yeah,
there
nice.
we go.
Yeah, I don't.
Towards that point, I said that I'm trying to get one of everything through 2003. But I can still get things after that time period, obviously.
They're not part of your quest.
I'm picking side quest. All the 5e things because I realized my kids would be playing 5e, so I'm playing 5e with them. So I have the Lamentations products. I backed your Kickstarters. I backed Skeeter's Science Wizard. I can still get things.
Oh yeah.
But I'm specifically trying to get everything that came out through 2000.
So what's the biggest one you're missing? From the ones where your stop point at 2004.
The one reasonably rare thing that I'm missing is when Bob Blake did the Gen Con 9 dungeons, he self-published some in Valparaiso, Indiana, that before it was published by Judges Guild a year later. And so those very small numbered self-published things by Bob Blake, those are the rarest things that I don't have.
Because the rarest things you do have are like what? So give us an idea. And you're not bragging. The world needs to know what it is, the kind of things you got, just out of curiosity. When I saw some of the stuff you had, I about fainted.
It's a little hard to make a list because, to be honest with you, I have like hundreds of artifacts.
I know. Just listing it off would take us 2 days, like a telethon.
The nicest brown box we know of, right up there in the corner, the one that's in the video that I did. The Judges Guild map on the wall right over here, which I'll show you in a second. But this is a cool thing. This is the agreement for Dave Arneson to do Blackmore. This is the actual contract signed by Gary and Brian Bloom.
Was there a suit over that afterwards?
Well, not over this specifically, but I mean, with the Arnesons and TSR, sure.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
This is the I know you're kidding. This is the divvying up of shares between Gary and Brian. The creation of TSR there. That's kind of cool.
Is that right after Don K died?
Yeah, this is after Don K died. Yep, this is August of '75 now when that happened. When TSR did Lost to Moacan for Origins in 1979, this is the author copy of Harold Johnson.
What?
And never
heard of him.
And because Harold vouched for me with Jeff Leeson also sold me his author copy.
So you have both author copies.
I do have both author copies, but the story gets a little better if you give me a sec.
Oh no!
Oh geez.
So then,
this is what I meant.
Alan Hammock was doing the next one for Winter.
Alan Hammock.
Later that year, and this is one of the two author copies because Alan Hammock said there are two author copies of Tomoacon.
Can you raise it up a little bit so they can see?
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
So he said there are two author copies of Tomoacon, so there should be two author copies of Inverness.
Oh, wow.
So as you saw, I have both of these.
And so, and when they say 2 author copies, they made 1 copy for each author. It's like, here you go out of our run of 50 or whatever.
Yeah, well, they did author. There are 2 author copies. Then there are DM copies, which I have multiple DM copies, and then there were 300 numbered copies that were available at the convention to sell to people.
Yeah.
And then the one other limited edition authored item like that was ST1 Up the Garden Path that was done at Games Day in 1986. And just a sec.
You have one to show people? Because I don't think almost nobody's seen these.
I do. This is Mike Brunton, one of the 2 authors. This is his author copy.
Ooh, I didn't know you had that one.
So I do not have the other author, Graham Morris's copy, but the bottom line is there are 6 in existence author copies of modules that were run by TSR at conventions, and I have 5 of the 6 author copies.
So when we go, Skeeter, when we need to go to Graham's house?
Hey, we don't talk about plans on recordings. Plausible
Well,
deniability, Zach.
Ah.
Amateur.
My brother lives in the UK. We could start there. No, seriously though, that's really neat.
Graham doesn't have his author copy anymore.
Oh,
Somebody else has it.
Somebody else. Okay, we'll talk off the air.
But I don't think he's selling while, much like me, I'm not selling while I'm above ground. I don't think.
Don't worry. But we can rush this for you. Don't worry. That's what Skeeter's for.
Oh, you're talking about that OB3, by the way. It's within arm's reach. So this is the first orange B3.
Raise it up a little bit so they can see it. Yeah.
This is the first orange B3 that was ever sold.
And how many are those in existence that you know of?
Well, that I know of, geez, I 50. But we're just not sure how many orange B3s there are, because what happened was the staffers used to get one of everything that was released by TSR. So they would go around with a box and give a copy to everybody. So after Gary saw it and said, we're going to destroy that, person went back to all of the cubicles and offices to get back their copies of the orange B3s. Many of them said, oh, well, I've already given mine back, or I already threw it away, or it's at home, or whatever. So a whole bunch of TSR staffers hung on to their copies before they were destroyed. And so there are also stories that, 1 or 2 parcels got out with copies that went to, into the distribution network. We just don't know how many copies there are left. I mean, if you're asking me how many, I don't know, I'd say 200, 100. We just don't know, really. But
I've only seen the ones at your house and a couple of 2 up for auction. And I mean, we're talking now $10,000 for, aren't we?
And not quite, more like 5,000 or 6,000 for it.
Yeah, last one I saw one for 8. I thought it was game hold, didn't it?
I didn't think it went for that high.
Why am I arguing with you? I believe you.
No, I'm going to show you something though that is selling for basically about 20 grand now. This is a jade hair with the cover.
Is that the one that Mike sold?
Mike sold.
Got a little?
I didn't know of him selling one.
Oh yeah,
No,
he made one for you.
He mocked up
the fake one.
No, I'm kidding. No, so that's the jade hair. Talk about that, so everybody's never seen or heard of one.
Well, they made a module called the jade hair, and what they did was they did a test printing of the wraparound cover, and they only made so many. I think it's about 130. I think was the number of the covers, but most of them probably got pulped. The only reason I have one is because TSR was in the habit of setting aside 2 of everything for their archives. And then when TSR bought by Wizards and moved out to Washington, what you could do with your Wizards points was purchase things from the TSR archives. So one of the TSR staffers used his points to purchase this copy. And then I bought this from him about 5 years ago. So it's still in the original shrink wrap. And I think we know of I think it's 7 copies of Jade Hair with cover, for
Now,
instance.
they made it without a cover and they put it inside
Yeah.
some boxes, correct?
What they did with all of the other ones that they had made, it was called a Dragon Master module. It was going to be a new line, but they never did anything with it. Rather than just pulp all of the actual modules, they sent them out free with mail order. So people would order the new D&D big box set and they'd send it out inside it for free, or they, with the parcel, they'd order a module and they'd get a copy of the Jade Hair, and those now sell for hundreds of dollars because, of course, many people just threw it away when they got it because it didn't have a cover on it and people thought of it as just a disposable thing. The items from our hobby were still considered disposable items until relatively recently.
I had
Yeah,
one
my mom
when I
thought
was
so.
a teenager, and it
Ripped,
just got
thrown away.
destroyed. Yeah.
Right. So, like I said, I was always doing this as an homage to all the creative people, including both of you here, who did great things for our hobby, who made it so that people could spend, thousands of hours enjoying these products. And I decided not to try to figure out which were the good ones and which were the bad ones. I said,
thank you for that.
I'm going to.
Yes, the both of us thank you for not having a discerning taste.
No, he's got taste, but he doesn't have the ability to want to tell anybody what he thinks.
Yeah.
Which is,
Okay.
what, you should be in politics. That's what a politician would do. I love it.
I decided to get one of everything and let history be the judge of what was good and what was bad.
Well, so then we talked about some of the stuff that's released, but you have some stuff that is like not released because it is not really a product, but it's more of the part of the creation of products. You have manuscripts and you have.
Sure. I have hundreds of manuscripts.
Talk about some of those that you think would impress nerds like, me.
Well, if you go out to the acam.com, for instance, they'll have a listing of things.
Yeah, people may not know what that is. The Acam is a site that was started by Scott. I can't remember his last name. But it was the still is the Collectors Forum, which looks like the day it was made back in 2004. It's an old school site with people who are very serious about collections and like what print. There are 9 printings. How do you tell between 8 and 9? And what's a Dungeon Master's Guide 1 beta? These things are there.
Mm-hmm.
Specified. Even some of the foreign editions there. I go there to check the foreign edition stuff.
Yep. No, the site is
there's a
site's
huge forum,
invaluable.
an active community that I joined. And when he says AKM, that's what he means. It's a place where big league collectors and people who are into the history of the hobby go and hang out. They also tell really bad, nerdy Star Trek jokes.
Yeah, so it's acaeum.com.
So that's when he says that's what he means. So go ahead.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes. Well, it is the place for D&D collecting. They've done an invaluable service to the collecting community. And a lot of people go there, of course, not only to find out about the distinctions between printings, but there are valuations there. And now, of course, what's happening is AKM is so big and popular now and such an important part of the collecting community that people do use it as a price guide, which they never meant specifically for it to be used as a price guide.
It's the only place where you can do serious research through searching on thousands of forum posts talking about items. And I know that I've been there when suddenly authors who released a book, I think one of them was the guy who did Dice and Men, just popped up. Like, I've been here for 2 years and not saying anything, and here I am, and here's my book, and like, okay, I saw you at GaryCon, But the people who do research, this is like a living place to do research. Some of the most OCD nerds I've ever met. No offense, Bill.
None taken.
And so it is. But if you want to know anything about the production of Dungeons and Dragons between 1974 and the ACM quits about 2000, doesn't it?
Well, it's through the end of 1E specifically, but they have a lot of 2E information on there nonetheless.
By the time they got purchased by Wizards of the Coast, the ACM doesn't care as much at all. I mean, it comes up. People ask, but it is the primary stuff is first edition and earlier.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like that's where I bought my one of my 2 turret modules off of Doug Rea, that well-known scoundrel.
So I actually have a question. You've got this.
Yes, Peter.
You've got this archive. You've been collecting for 40 years now.
40 years, yeah.
Regardless of rarity and price, what is your favorite item that you have collected?
Say AT&T Beach Towel. Say AT&T Beach Towel. Oh.
I'll pull them out in a second here. Now, okay, well, to answer your question first, I was asked that question the other day. I posted a bunch of pictures on Facebook of my collection, and I did a sort of a walkabout. I took pictures from all around the living room here. In this room, about 8,000 of the 13,000 things are housed. And most of the really valuable things. But so I was asked that question, and I guess the answer for me was the brown box. That's the really nice one near mint. That's John Peterson and I were talking about in the OD&D video that we made to distill the different printings of Dungeons and Dragons.
I know him.
And so that box has meant a lot to me because that came from my brother-in-law, and he was around at the time and buying everything when it came out in the early 70s. And he didn't play. He sat down and played one or two times with Gary at Gary's kitchen table up in Lake Geneva. But miniatures and war games were his thing. So on a personal level, that box means a lot to me because it came from my brother-in-law, and they're bringing me up to Gen Con and fostering my introduction to the hobby and bringing me up to Gen Con for many years thereafter, obviously, because I was a minor. There's a personal connection there, and that it's not just because it's among the more valuable things in my collection, it's because of the personal tie.
It's got a connection.
Yeah. Right. So, one of the things I'd also answer was my first DMG, which has a little tiny spider stain inside it, because I was talking with Mark Greenberg on the telephone at the time, and the book was on the floor. And I closed the cover, and at that moment, a little tiny spider I hadn't seen ran across the carpet and just got underneath the book as the book closed on top of it. And Mark heard me bellow on the phone. Well, it was probably more of a girlish shriek at the time.
The best part of that story is I heard Mark tell it. And it was girlish scream was kind of more the way he said it.
That's awesome.
No, but no, I think, and I think you're. What's nice about what you said is it was an item that was personal to you. But when I was asked earlier about items that weren't products that were released, like of those items that were like either a part of the creation process or something, like you don't have like Gary Gygax's coffee mug because that says something else on it. You collect things that are related to D&D or TSR or other role-playing game companies.
Among and I was going to talk about that in 1 second, because sometimes people think it's just TSR and D&D stuff. But I mean, I have every TSR fantasy role-playing product made, with the exception of a couple of the Adventurers Guild modules from 1998. With the exception of those, I have every TSR item, a fantasy role-playing item. So I don't have a copy of all my children, Zach. Sorry.
Well, you gave one to me because you don't care. And you know what? So, that's okay. That's what I'm for.
Right. But for instance, I have things from one of the things, actually, we'll just take a little quick walk. This is the last thing I've gotten. My wife, actually, we have this one professionally framed, but often my wife does them. But this is the Bottle City map from circa 1974. That is one of, if not one of the oldest dungeons in the history of Dungeons and Dragons that exists. And so we just had this framed and put up. This was the original Judges Guild map of the city-state of the Invincible Overlord. Oh, wow. And if you actually look really close, I'll see if I can get in really close and show that. It actually says No Name City in Middle Earth, because Bob Bledsaw was using this as the map for his city north and west of Rivendell. And so that's what it actually
right here. Go down a little bit. Yeah, almost. Nope.
Well, anyway, it does say No Name City in Middle Earth down there. But so then he got the bright idea, geez, we could sell this. And, they probably sold 1 million copies of that. So, actually, while I'm up, we just got this display rack. This is kind of cool.
Oh, man.
So here's a TSR display rack.
God damn it. That's one thing I want is Where's Mars? God damn you, Bill.
Well, that's Brian Bloom's author's copy there.
Of course it is.
And
That's so wonderful. Look at that. What a great shelf.
so, having moved over here, I'm just going to show you. This was also one of my brother-in-laws. This is probably the only. I'd call this near mint plus. This is a first print chainmail, just with no flaws whatsoever on it.
Wow.
And this is the kind of thing that he had that it's one of the things that separates my collection, because I not only have the items, but they're just in pristine condition.
I can, not that you need me to, but I can vouch for that, because I was afraid to be at your house with some of the stuff you took out, man.
This is a really cool item. This was Dave Sutherland's second edition chainmail, but if you can see, his name is in Elvish runes up on the cover there.
The Tangwar? Yeah.
So that's really cool. I went over to him when I bought this. I think I spent $65 buying this in like 1984. And I said, Dave, why are you getting rid of this? And he said, well, I don't play it anymore. And like the same thing that Terry Kuntz said, I'd like, one of the younger people to have it. So I was thrilled to get it, of course. So I have, sometimes when people see the pictures of my wall, they think I do have doubles, but I really don't.
No, he doesn't.
I just have people's personal copies of things.
Yeah.
So, but to get back to your question, Zach, one of the things I have that's really cool is when Brian and Gary would play, I should say when Gary and Rob Kuntz would play, they would write everything down on 3x5-inch index cards. And it would be the people that they would come across, NPC cards in Greyhawk. And I have about 65 of those cards were people that they would meet in the town, including Volfi, the Elven King with his -9 armor class. But those cards are literally from 1973. They predate the publication of Dungeons and Dragons.
I saw them, and I would flip one over, and it said MILF, and I'm like, oh, it's Luke's card. No, it had mentioned his name on it for some reason, and I just thought that was hysterical, and it very, very much. That's a museum quality item, and just because that tells you how the game was played in a slice
that
I don't think you'd see, because I assure you, and I think it's great what they do with Critical Role in the same game they played then, and that gives you a chance to actually see it and see the evolution in a way that what makes the genius of Dungeons and Dragons is that it was played that way. It's still played that way in many places I go, but it's also played a completely different way by a total dozen people. It was not. It transcends most games. Monopoly is a fun game. A lot of people play it, right? And like there are a lot of board games I think are really nifty. Dungeons and Dragons fundamentally shifted the way you can do games, and that's what proved it. And I thought of that when I was at your house. When I looked at those cards, and I thought to myself, this is a slice that shows you the creation of a fundamentally transgressive media. And I think that it was great. That's the kind of stuff that I want you to be able to show without having to like walk around, pull out, but like with pictures and let people see it, know it exists, because it is so really. You need to have someone come and do archive book. We need to make a coffee table book of stuff.
Well,
we get sued off the planet.
To be fair, when John Peterson and Michael Whitwer and when they came to take pictures of for Art and Arcana, they probably spent 30 hours here at my house taking pictures of things for the book. So a lot of the things in that book, they did use in Art and Arcana.
Yep.
Unfortunately, many more they couldn't use because the copy that I had was in the original shrink wrap. And while shrink is not a condition,
it's not going to be broken in your house either.
I'm not taking it off. My wife still gives me grief about
taking. You send them to Alex Kammer. He will totally open it if he's got a copy for John Pearson, because he's that kind of guy.
I met my wife in 2004. Eventually, I told her about buying the OB3 back in 1982. And I told her I took the shrink wrap off because, I was curious what all the hubbub was about what was inside the module. I was 16 after all. And she said to me, "You took the shrink wrap off?"
Awesome.
That understands you.
I was so disappointed when I finally, because I had always heard this legend of how horrible this module was, and I finally saw the pictures and I'm like, what? This created a revolution. You know,
Well, among the pictures, of course, is one where there's a three-headed troll that depicts Brian and Gary as two of the three heads of the troll.
Yeah.
So I'm quite sure that didn't go over very well.
yeah, I
So,
can imagine.
but other things that I have, for instance, are I have about 120 tournament modules where adventures that were run at tournaments, things from Empire of the Petal Throne, things from Gen Con from 1975, up through the R5 through R10 adventures that were run at Gen Con in the early 80s, and stuff up through to the current day. And then I have about 200 manuscripts. You were asking about that before. Unpublished things and the original versions of things, typewritten things.
Some things nobody's seen because you guys want to open the damn things up.
One of the things I just got really recently that was really cool, and this is I was alluding to this earlier. People think that my collection is just TSR, but it's actually anything that's fantasy role playing. For instance, this is Steve Perrin's personal copy of RuneQuest. He's
Never heard of
the
it.
author of RuneQuest.
That's awesome. He's a nice guy.
This is the first copy out of the box of RuneQuest. Greg Stafford pulled it out in 1978 and
Nice.
wrote first across the top of it and had it in his personal possession until he sold it on eBay about 8 years ago. So, and sometimes people will ask.
You just write first on the front? That's all you got to do?
He wrote first on the front. I'm sorry, was that not? Oh, yeah, that's right.
So Zach's going to write first on the front of every book he's got.
And that's why you need provenance, Zach.
First.
Oh, I see all my children. They're very nice. For the longest time, the two big things that I didn't have were the Jade Hair with cover and a first print copy of Tunnels and Trolls. And I got both of them within a month of each other about 7 years ago. And this was Ken St. Andre's personal copy of first print Tunnels and Trolls. And when he did a reprint for not a reprint, he did a photocopy of people that he knew back in the mid 80s, and that's when he put this piece of paper across the front of it that says Tunnels and Trolls.
That's awesome.
But I haven't taken it off. But but that's the kind of thing I was talking about. It's not just D&D stuff. It's everything fantasy role playing.
And you have quite a connection to Chaosium and Call of Cthulhu.
Well, I love Call of Cthulhu, absolutely, and I have some cool things. I don't have everything for Call of Cthulhu, but I like it.
I got stuff because of you that's awesome. I can say
Yes,
that.
so do I. Behind the green screen.
This is the kind of guy that Bill is. So my mom called my boss looking for something cool to give for Christmas, who then called Bill, yada, yada, yada. I got some bizarro cool Japanese stuff in shrink that's brand new thanks to Bill's connection. And so the thing is, you're connected to people, though, because they like you. You do take good care of their stuff.
Oh, yeah,
a lot
absolutely.
of these things you've got, people give you to make sure that there is a place, because a lot of these companies don't keep product. I mean,
right.
Frog God claims to have an archive, but my doubts are there.
Yeah, I know what that archive is. It's bins in a warehouse. I've seen it.
Well, I sense that gradually Bill is trying to switch the archive to my house, but
no, I think he already has. I just don't think it's official. No, but the thing is, that's the kind of thing that you do. And so when you say you have connections to Chaosium, it's not because, hey man, I can hook you up, man. No, it's more of you are a conduit for making sure that some of these things truly are there. And I know that if I had something truly unique or valuable, anything, there's no way I would trust myself with it. Not in 1,000 years. I mean, I have all my children here, but if that was the only copy that ever existed, I'd throw it at you. I mean, honest to God. Yeah. So we say these things like it's kind of funny and shady. We make fun of you here, but when you have these connections, it's not just because, you're some kind of like, well, you are kind of a kingpin, but but it comes down to the fact that you're doing a service like Skeeter started this whole thing with, and how you see it really is true, because there are about, I'm going to go on a limb and guess 14 of you that are really serious collectors, and some of them are heavy on art and not heavy on books. And I'm going to guess there's about 5 or 7 of you that really have collections that are something, but yours is the one that I've seen that when you buy something new, you move every book over one. See, the shelves are so full, Skeeter. When he buys a new book that has to fit in, they have to all go over. And they're 40 feet. Look behind me. That's how long they are.
Yeah,
and they have to all go down, and he does it every time. That is why, it matters, and it does. It really does matter.
Your point is well taken. They are all in an exact order. When I had the shelves built,
by printing too, right?
I'm sorry.
By printing too, right?
Well,
it's first print through 7th, don't you?
Sure, it's alphabetical by then by stock code, then by item and description, and of course by printing. Yes. So when I had the shelves built, and they're 10 feet high and they're 30 feet long, and they also have, if you touch them, a green slam falls on top of you. we had them custom built, and the funny part was that my expectation was to have them be. I was going to have everything look like, Manhattan skyline. So there'd be a digest-sized item, and then a box set, and then, regular items. So it was going to look like that. And it was all going to be in stock code order. But I had the shelves built. What I forgot was that because they're 42 inches wide, the shelves, what we did was, instead of having one board, we had a board and then another board, and we glued it, nail gunned it, sanded it down so that the boards are now 2 inches thick, or 1.5 inches thick instead of 3/4 of an inch thick. So I lost 3/4 of an inch all the way up on each of the shelving levels. So I started putting the things on, and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm short. So what I switched to doing was, along the top are all the digest-sized items, all the way along the top, and they're all
I bet you were in a bad mood for months over that. I bet you were pissed off for months.
It took me about an hour to figure out what to do and whatnot, but still.
Were you angry?
I was. Well, my children heard a primal scream from me.
Once again, let's call the girl a scream that Mark Greenberg heard.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh man.
Oh, Bill, you're the greatest.
The other thing I did though, I turned all the box sets on their side, and I got an extra shelf that way as well. So, but then everything else is in order on the shelves. Yeah, and the nice thing is, it doesn't look like a library shelving, because it all fits, kind of perfectly on the shelves, if you see what I mean. So there aren't any open gaps anywhere.
I remember when you bought that snit on top, by the way, or the
Valuations.
Valuations, yes, I remember when you bought that. I was there. Yeah. I wanted that, and then when you bid, I'm done.
Well, I hate to say it, but I did actually recently get a companion.
Oh, there's another one.
Valuations up there.
Oh boy. See, now I know why I hate you sometimes too. See, there you go. No. I love those. Those are really neat. Hey,
they are, but I have 2 kids, so I thought 2 Valuations would be nice.
That makes sense. So I have another question for you then.
Sure.
So you collect the games and the paper products, but I know that you wind up with the ephemera, because I'm, as an ephemera collector, because once I saw your collection, I was out for big paper stuff. I love ephemera. And so what do you pick up and why? Because you have the beach towel, you have the belt buckle. What is it that makes you buy something that really isn't part of your collecting center, but you feel you just got to have?
Well,
ooh.
Oh, wow.
Well, this is nerd porn.
I'm walking downstairs. I thought you'd like that poster.
Oh, I do.
Very nice.
Hang on just a jiffy here.
I know right where he is, because this is where we did the Lost Lands test map.
That's right. We did it on my pool table.
Yeah, we did.
But I thought, while I'm down here, I thought you'd like to see my Dwarven Forge city.
Oh, no, we don't like Stephen Picorni.
Oh, come on now.
I'm kidding. That's beautiful.
That is just insane.
Yeah. It's about 10 feet long and 5 feet wide. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Take that, Tom.
It's okay.
That's a big middle finger to Tom Tullis. We can't help that. Wow, that is neat.
That is so nice.
I keep moving my head forward and look at my screen, so it looks.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, it's really neat though.
I'm doing my best here, but
No, you're doing fine. So,
yeah. So I'll answer your question. I did not collect ephemera because I was only going for the paper products. But when I bought Brian Bloom's collection, he had some things in it that were just so cool that I decided to keep them. And now I do collect some ephemera, like I have the 3 beach towels, I have belt buckles. When I go back upstairs, I'll show you some of the stuff. But I'm trying really hard not to still, as you say, move things along to my friends instead of keeping them to myself. And so towards that end, the store, Games Plus, that I work for in my retirement, had modeling clay.
What?
That the store just sold to Zach. And not just that one.
I've never even heard of that. I was so excited when you contacted me. Oh, man. Look at that.
Box 2.
Oh,
I have
man.
never, ever even seen that. Has anybody ever seen that? Have you ever heard of that before?
I had heard of it, but I hadn't personally seen any boxes of it. But, as I told you, Zach, inside, they're just pristine. You couldn't find a nicer copy of these. I know you'll be very happy.
I told myself I had to turn someone down for something they offered me today for foreign language versus a Middle Earth role playing. And I turned them down because I bought those, and I am super glad. So
I am just very happy that when Zach perishes, I know where that stuff is going to be.
Yeah, it's gonna be like outside my garbage if you don't hurry up.
Yeah.
No, my wife is very understanding about that stuff, but she doesn't see the value of the modeling clay. I explained that to her. She wasn't there.
Jen has always been so nice to me too. She was a pleasure to meet, and she's a lovely person. And we're very happy when she joined you to come out here. And her questions have never been to me, why are you selling this crap to my husband? It's been,
not yet.
And not yet. You're helping to make my husband happy. So this is
all right. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly. Bless her heart. No, so no, honestly, so the ephemera stuff like that that's what I'm interested in. I'm not going to go into a lot of it now, but I find that fascinating because that's an early piece of when D&D as a cultural thing happened, and you kind of see a slice of that.
In Spain, I'm sorry to interrupt you. In Spain they made luncheon meat, D&D lunch meat.
That is fantastic. And of course they did.
Of course they did. I don't think I'd eat any of it. I think they called it like, orc bacon or something like that. But I don't think I'd try any,
Oh, man.
I might.
Oh, yeah. Zach would definitely
so
try
bad,
it.
I think I'm going to die. I was about to say, the 2 things I wanted are the needlepoint kit and the,
Hey, that looks familiar.
I know
There's
that
Bard's
guy.
Gate. There's the Bard's Gate tapestry there.
Do you have a wood burning set? Damn it.
I wood burning set passed through my hands, but I don't have one anymore.
Yeah.
But I'll go back upstairs and show you the beach towels since you asked. But
right on, then.
So I don't feel the specific need when I come across ephemera, for instance, for the store to keep it. I'm happy to move it along. I mean, I have stuff like I'm just passing through the dining room here.
You headed that little chest next to your shelves. I know where you're going.
Hey, look at that. Glassware.
Yeah.
All right.
But actually what I did just for you, Zach, for coming on GDZ here today.
Oh boy.
I put some of the ephemera.
Oh boy.
Right out on the tabletop here. So pens and match box covers and
Zach hit the payload.
Oh man, the watch. Okay, is that Judge Guild?
Oh no, actually that's a Mayfair watch. That was Jeff Leeson's Mayfair watch. But downstairs I have the Planescape pins and a Planescape watch and belt buckle all in a display that my wife made. So that was nice.
Yeah. Mosquito, if we go to visit, you know what table I need.
I'm not stealing anything for you.
Oh, no.
But
It's still my
I mean,
kidney, though. That's what bothers me.
Yeah, I
so
would totally take your kidney.
the ephemera is fun, but for instance, I know, Zach, that on a fundamental level, you like the ephemera more than I do. So
Yes.
I'm happy that you and Guppy and my other friends.
Guppy's just a wannabe, man. He just follows me around. Whatever I like, he likes. Foreign languages, he shows up. Ephemera, he shows up. Next thing you know, like criminal record, he'll show up.
I should show you two things here. One is, I always like to multi-purpose if I can. And I had my mom's cedar chest. So I thought, what do I do with my mom's cedar chest? So what I did was I have all of my shirts from conventions in my mom's cedar chest. This is Gary's shirt from Gen Con 1978.
Oh.
And
you wash that one, do you? Wear that one washing the car?
No, I don't. But, these are the beach towels, since you asked about them.
Of course I asked about them.
I'll try to...
oh, boy.
Come on, dude. That's cool. See?
Yeah, I'm not saying it is not cool.
Ooh, that's the map one.
Yep, that is the map one.
See?
No.
Yep. Oh, is that Sutherland art?
Yes.
See, now I'm getting too excited. Skeeter Green, this could go on for 9 hours now when you're looking at beach towels. I think what we should do is ask some final questions of Bill here.
Top secret shirt.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Wow.
That's from 1984, though, right? Or 1983?
83, yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's not a new top secret shirt. Alan Hammock, he probably has one of those to sell you for $5, man.
Well, I actually got those from Merle Rasmussen, those top secret shirts.
Okay, now he's classy. That's all I'll tell you.
Oh, one other thing about
he has a fake tuxedo.
This is a beta uncut rare sheet from Magic.
Never heard of it.
With it, we just framed this and put it up, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so that's one I don't recognize from when I visited.
No, that wasn't here. That wasn't here when you were last here. We've put that up since. We've got stuff that's getting framed and put up all the time. So I've got a lot of maps and stuff like that haven't gone up yet. We're trying to fill up the walls with that stuff. But sometimes people will ask, by the way, about the light in here, and we had to spend a considerable amount of money to get windows that are 100%.
Hold on. You have to explain to people first, why would they ask about the light?
Well, they're afraid about items being sun damaged over time. And so we spent a lot of money to get one company makes windows that are 100% UV resistant. And so that's what's in this room here and the other rooms, so that we don't have any sun bleaching at all. So
the next solar storm, I'm coming to your house, man.
Yeah, so we're safe. We don't get fried.
Bill, a couple things.
Yes.
One is, I know Skeeter and I talked about, we'd like to do a show from your house sometime, but we'd like to, I think, do this again and maybe do some focus stuff on some of the items, because there's so much to talk about. This could go on for 18 hours, man, because you have so much great stuff.
I understand. You're welcome here anytime. You already know that.
Yeah, we do.
And B,
Skeeter,
I would be happy to come on anytime you want to and talk about stuff in the collection.
No, this is just great stuff. And you have, that's one of the things you really kind of have to do some of your lich stuff, man, because it's not just your collection that's valuable. Do you know so many really, really interesting things that you should probably write a book, but you always swore to me you'd never write anything. So you need to get a tape recorder, and then you can filter out of your head the stuff like, okay, that copy was, the only reason that copy is actually folded is because, well, it fell in the back of Alan Hammock's truck. Those kind of things you can't replace. And so I think that that's what makes, the more you share this with people, the more it kind of gives the character of it and what makes it so special for the hobby, because, the Midwest has many things, but this is its own, man. This comes from the Midwest United States in the wintertime, man.
Yeah, if we had any actual interviewing skills, I mean, we could do like a week-long report and just break it up into hour-long chunks.
We're going to read a book on it before we visit.
Yes. I would like to subscribe to your newsletter.
Yes, we'd like to subscribe to your newsletter, please. No, but Bill, I want to say thank you for this.
Yes, thank you very much.
I totally think you're going to way, be more popular than Alex Cameron was. That's what I think. No, I'm kidding. No, it's been great having you on. It's been great seeing your stuff. You
Alex,
are doing a lot
Alex,
of work.
Alex has a great collection.
No, he does. No, he has a really great collection, and he's going to watch this because he's going to want to see what you showed. Because then we're going to have him on here to show stuff off too. Because what I love about all you guys is you know exactly what it is you need to show each other. Because you guys are so good with each other, you'll get you guys the pieces that you need, but you all will like do it very nicely and you mean to, and it's sincere. But as you goes by, you're like,
no, I remember very distinctly at, I think it was the last Gary Con that I was at. I was sitting 2 or 3 rows back behind. I think it was you, Bill, and Mark and Guppy, just a whole line, Scott Brand, a whole line of you guys. And it was in the auction, and every time something came up for auction, all of you guys looked down the row to see who was interested, and only one of you ever bid on an item, and nobody like
because
upbid
the
or
only
anything.
thing is, it wasn't like there's one guy also hoarding it. You guys all knew where it went. There's fun. You're just double checking.
Yeah.
You're kind of like swallows singing songs outside.
Jim Kitchen, I think, had buttons made for us for the next Gen Con that referred to us as the usual suspects.
Yeah.
So
that seems on brand.
That seems on brand. Jim Kitchen, he showed his art collection to us on one of these shows. And it was
that was great.
I don't think that's something that doesn't get seen as much too. Some of these art collectors that have really great art haven't got a chance. I know that thank God for Art and Arcana, but there's some really great stuff out there that I think people appreciate. That's just now people are starting to be able to share and show. So it's good stuff.
Well, I'll go. I want to say one thing quickly. Asking about valuations, because it doesn't really matter to me what anything in my collection is worth, because it's not for sale. It's not going to be sold while I'm above ground.
No, we know. Have you considered is it a museum or like a college library? Is there places like that you've thought about where it can go, or is it more of you're gonna move on? Do you have any idea? I mean, I'm just
sure. I have mused on that topic and discussed it with friends of mine and whatnot, and it's going to obviously be part of a detailed estate plan as far as that goes.
No, I'm sure your kids will have something to do with it and everything else.
I would never willingly allow it to be broken up. I want it to all stay together, and so that's part of it. Because
I've met your kids too, and I know that they respect that very much. Your collection and what you do, and I think that I could see that being something that won't be as ugly as it would be if it was at my house. It's a battle of 5 armies for my crap, man.
But I was going to say something. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say now. But well, no, it's totally left my head. I can't.
Okay,
remember.
So wait, no, I am going to close out with my story from Gen Con 50.
All right, go.
Okay.
When my lovely wife and I went to Gen Con 50, and it was there was the whole museum section in the middle of Lucas Oil Stadium.
The Recreation Horticultural Hall.
Yeah, the recreation. There were all of these big glass displays of the whole, just all of the years of D&D and some of these super precious items that were in there. And we wandered around and looked through the whole thing, and there were these people milling about by the front. And I'm just like, what are all these people doing here? And it's like, oh, well, Bill Meinhardt is taking everybody through these collections and talking about it. And I'm like, oh, that guy? and the people that were standing there were just like, oh, you can't say that. And then I see Bill come walking in. He's going to do his display, and he's just all talking to everybody. And then I finally just said, hey. And he finally recognized that it was me and Jen, and he stopped, gave us big hugs and everything. And that whole display, you and everybody who put material in that for the fans to see, just thank you as a fan of D&D for doing that kind of stuff. It was just amazing to see.
It was great.
Yeah. It was...
And what I thought you were going to talk about, Skeeter, and I'm walking over to get it, because one of the things that I included for it was from Frog God Games.
Don't hurt yourself carrying that.
Yeah, don't catch yourself
boy.
with a corner.
The metal book from Bard's Gate.
Yeah.
Nice.
And just in
it
case
does-
anybody can't tell, that is metal. That is
Yes,
a
it is.
metal book.
Forged iron.
Yep.
We don't make them
Yep.
anymore.
And it weighs about 10 pounds, does this thing.
Yeah.
But
It would stop a bullet.
No, it was like a tank.
I made sure that got into the Gen Con 50 displays. It was Peter Atkinson's father with basically One of Everything Magic, and Paul Stormberg and
Yep.
John Peterson and I, who were able to contribute to the museum there. And that was a lot of fun. And I think people really enjoyed it. And because, like I said, for many years, people thought of the items from the hobby as disposable. And so
Right.
I think that was something where people realized, hey, we actually, I remember what I was going to say now because you brought me back to it. Thank you, Skeeter. Comic books. I see no reason why comic books should be thought of as a higher echelon than role-playing games. In role-playing games, you can see the hero and be the hero. You can play the hero.
Right.
And so that was, I think, one of the reasons why I never understood why comic books would have a greater cachet than role-playing games. And that's one of the things that convinced me when I was 16 to try to get one of everything from this, because I thought, geez, comic books, at the time we weren't yet at $1 million valuations for, Superman 1, but they were selling for a lot of money. And I
Right.
thought these role-playing games are infinitely more, to me, valuable and meaningful. So, if Superman 1 will sell for $2 million to Nick Cage, I don't think anytime in the next 10 years, but in 50 years or 60 years, will a brown box sell for $1 million? Who knows?
Well, that's Nick Cage too. So
Yeah.
Well, it's not
there's
just-
We have Nick Cage stories too, but we're going to leave those out.
yeah, we'll bypass that. But
All right. Well, we're going to call this one now because we're going to want to do it again.
yes.
And I want to thank Bill very, very much. For
This is episode 1 of hopefully many.
because this is a great collection with a great guy that is actually preserving a hobby that we all care very deeply for. So
My pleasure. Loved it.
you're
I was
absolutely-
going to say, when you talk to Alex next, when you have him on, if he hasn't already, because I don't think he has, he should show you his map of the known world there at Gamehole, which is really, really cool.
no, I've seen it. He hadn't showed it off though, because
Yeah, he hasn't
it is-
shown it on the video, but when
but he,
we were
you know,
there,
he brought this artifact from Forgotten Realms on our show. God, what? Oh yeah, it was Ed Greenwood.
yeah, it was actually Elminster.
Yes, exactly. Elements.
That was the best part of his collection. He just kind of opened the door and this Ed Greenwood guy fell out. Anyway, no, pleasure, absolute pleasure, and
Thanks for having me on.
no
Thank
problem.
you.
Sure,
Thank you
very
for
much
doing
for
it.
being the asshole you are. And this is me, Zach, and thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye, everybody.